Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, we'll take a look at what Joe Manchin leaving the Senate means for Democrats' chances of holding the chamber and the White House. And it feels like Groundhog Day on Capitol Hill as Congress once again comes up against a critical deadline to fund the federal government.
Plus, after some 80s earlier this week, we are tracking some below average temperatures for the weekend. Your forecast coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Senator Joe Manchin is speaking in the swing state of Georgia today, one day after the West Virginia Democrat announced he would not run again in 2024. Manchin is considered a possible presidential candidate. WYMT Washington News Bureau reporter Brendan Cullerton breaks down what Manchin's move means for 2024.
A powerhouse of West Virginia politics, Joe Manchin's exit from the Senate is a major blow to Democrats' chances of holding the chamber next year and possibly the White House.
I will not be running for re-election.
Centrist Senator Joe Manchin sent shockwaves through the political universe when he announced his pending exit from the U.S. Senate.
What I will be doing is traveling the country and speaking out to see if there is an interest in creating a movement to mobilize the middle.
There is speculation Manchin is hinting at a presidential run, and third-party group No Labels has already referred to him as an ally. Cook Political Reports' Jessica Taylor says a third party probably can't win the White House, but Manchin could pull votes from Joe Biden.
I think Democrats are right to worry about what a No Labels candidacy could do to Biden's prospects.
Taylor says the Senate seat will almost certainly flip to West Virginia's Republican Governor Jim Justice, as Manchin's personal brand of politics was the only thing keeping the seat blue.
He's been a political unicorn in West Virginia. I mean, he served in the legislature, he was Secretary of State, he was governor, and he was sort of able to buck the political evolution that was happening in a state like West Virginia.
Republicans picking up the West Virginia seat would put the Senate at an even 50-50. Taylor says it doesn't look good for Democrats, as all 7 of their projected close races are Democrats trying to hold seats.
The fact that you have vulnerable Democrats, especially in these red states, losing this one, I think, is very damaging for them.
If Democrats lose any more seats, they would need to win a Senate race in states like Texas or Florida, which has recently been a major challenge for the party. In Washington, I'm Brendan Cullerton.
The judge heading up former President Donald Trump's classified documents trial has decided it will still happen in May 2024, at least for now. The former president has repeatedly pushed to move the federal criminal trial and others past the November 2024 presidential election. Trump argues his demands on the campaign trail and the complexities of his other legal cases should allow for a delay. A New York Congresswoman has filed an ethics complaint against the judge in Trump's civil fraud trial. Representative Elise Stefanik filed the complaint accusing Judge Arthur Engoron of displaying, quote, clear judicial bias against the defendant throughout the case. Engoron placed the former president under a gag order last month, which was then expanded to his attorneys, and fined him twice for violations after Trump repeatedly criticized the judge's court staff. We're learning more about a highly anticipated meeting between President Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Senior U.S. administration officials say the leaders will meet Wednesday in the San Francisco Bay Area. President Biden has already planned to be in the Bay Area next week for a Pacific Leaders Economic Summit. White House aides see the talks between the two leaders as a positive sign for the bilateral relationship after months of friction. Vice President Kamala Harris was in South Carolina today to file President Biden's paperwork to appear on the ballot in the state's Democratic primary. South Carolina is the state that turned around Biden's fortunes in the 2020 Democratic primary and propelled him to the nomination. The trip gave the campaign the opportunity to court black voters, an important constituency for Biden in 2020 and one that will again be key to his re-election hopes. Federal authorities say someone targeted election officials in multiple states with letters laced with fentanyl. CBS's Bradley Blackburn has more on that from New York.
The FBI has joined the investigation to find out who sent more than a dozen letters containing a suspicious powder to election workers. The letters were sent to offices in 5 states and were believed to have been mailed from somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Initial tests show some of the letters contain trace amounts of fentanyl, but further tests are being conducted.
Some people like to call fentanyl a drug, but it's actually poison. It'll kill you. It'll kill you very quickly, very easily.
Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger confirmed that one of the letters was addressed to an election office in Fulton County, the same county where former President Trump and several co-defendants face charges for trying to overturn the 2020 results. Trump has pleaded not guilty. Fulton County election officials have received numerous threats since the 2020 presidential election.
This is domestic terrorism, and it needs to be condemned by anyone that holds elected office and anyone that wants to hold elected office anywhere in America.
We have to start taking these threats seriously and push back on them.
Former Washington Secretary of State Kim Wyman says there need to be new laws carrying severe penalties for people trying to interfere with elections.
This should be mandated. When someone threatens our election system and is trying to undermine our way of life, we have to take a stand and hold them accountable.
Authorities still don't know the motive of the person or persons who sent the letters. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Well, the sky continues to clear as we go into your Friday evening. Here's a live look from Buffalo Mountain. We are dry, also clear, looking at a nice sunset as well. That current temperature 50, and those temperatures will continue to fall as the sun sets. Most of us now in the middle to lower 50s and upper 40s in the Big Sandy Valley, down to 47 for Clintwood, also Pikeville, 53 in Harlan, 52 in Middlesboro, 55 in London, also Somerset at this hour. As you can see on the radar, that moisture continues pushing off to the east. Also, those clouds continue moving out of the region as well. So we are tracking some drier weather, also some more clearing skies as we go into this evening, also into tonight, as that front that brought the much needed showers now off to the south and east, and we are tracking high pressure to take over once again as we go into tonight, also into your weekend. So as a result, we stay dry and much cooler as you wake up on Saturday. Lows back in the middle to upper 30s, and once again we are below average on Veterans Day. Those details on the way in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Cameron, thank you. Congress is now in recess in observance of Veterans Day, but a day out of the office is not necessarily a day off work, as members have just 1 week now to pass legislation to fund the U.S. government and avoid a shutdown. If this story feels familiar to you, it's because legislators were in this same position a little more than 1 month ago. CNN's Gloria Pazmino has the latest.
It feels like Groundhog Day in Washington.
In just a few days, the federal government is once again at risk of shutting down,
as Congress remains at an impasse over passing a budget.
The objective is to find compromise and advance the ball forward. In the immediate, we need to pass a CR to keep the government funded and open.
The stopgap bill, known as a continuing resolution, or CR, passed at the end of September with bipartisan support, extending funding through November 17. But the compromise came at the expense of then-Speaker Kevin McCarthy's leadership position, as far-right members of his Republican caucus revolted.
I've moved to vacate the chair.
In the first big test of his leadership, House Speaker Mike Johnson is tasked with navigating the same quagmire McCarthy faced, getting his fractured Republican caucus to coalesce around legislation that will also pass the democratically controlled Senate.
If he does decide to pass a continuing resolution, that's going to upset enough members, given his small majority, that his speakership will be questioned.
But even if Congress avoids a shutdown this time, some fear the continued dysfunction in Washington puts the country at risk.
Whether it be over the debt limit or electing a speaker to the House or government shutdown, one of these times, we're just not going to be able to pull it together. And we're going to do a lot of damage to, our economy, to our markets, to our standing in the world.
I'm Gloria Pasmino reporting.
In Georgia, a man has been charged with threatening to kill GOP Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, her family, and her staff. 34-year-old Sean Patrick Cirillo of Macon is accused of calling Greene's office and making those threats on Wednesday. He's been charged with using communication devices to make threats, a felony offense. Taylor Greene issued a statement saying the threat forced her to close her district office. She also thanked police for acting swiftly. The director of the FBI is reportedly not happy with the location of the agency's new headquarters. The location will be built in Greenbelt near the metro station, about 13 miles from Washington, D.C. In a message to FBI employees, Director Christopher Wray questioned the selection process by the General Services Administration and the decision of an unnamed GSA senior executive to override the unanimous decision of a 3-member panel to select Springfield. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, microchips and ID tags are frequently used to reunite pets with their owners. We find out if a QR code-enabled tag that uses technology to track your pet does what it's designed to do.
Plus, we are tracking drier weather for this weekend. Your first alert forecast after this break.